All right, it's time to roll up our sleeves and start building. In this part, we'll set up a basic environment and go through the steps to create your first simple AI agent. Don't worry, we're keeping costs near zero by using free tools and services. To follow along, you should have a programming environment ready. We'll use Python since most AI agent libraries are Python-based and it's easy to work with. If you don't want to install Python locally, you can even use an online notebook service like Google Colab, which is free and lets you run Python code in your browser. But a local setup on your computer works just as well. Make sure you have Python 3.10 plus installed. First, let's talk about the AI model, the brain of our agent. You have a couple of options here. If you want zero cost and are okay with using a slightly less powerful model, you can go with a local LLM, large language model. There are open source models available that you can run on your own hardware. For example, Meta's Llama 2 model is free for research and commercial use, and smaller versions of it, like the 7B or 13B parameter variants, can run on a decent PC, or at least on a modern laptop with enough RAM, especially if you use optimization techniques like 4-bit quantization. There are user-friendly packages like GPT-4All or Ubabooga's text generation web UI that make it easier to download and run these local models. Running a model locally means once it's set up, you're not paying per request, it's your compute. The downside is you need the computing power, CPU, GPU, and the model might not be as smart or fluent as the cutting-edge GPT-4. The other option is to use a hosted API for an LLM, such as OpenAI's API. Using something like OpenAI's GPT 3.5 Turbo can be incredibly cheap, on the order of fractions of a cent for a short request, and it's quite powerful for most tasks. OpenAI often gives new users some free credit to start, which might be enough for our experiments. Even if not, a few dollars can get you a lot of mileage with GPT 3.5. For our first agent, I'll assume we use GPT 3.5 via OpenAI because it's straightforward and delivers good results without heavy setup. If you prefer not to use OpenAI or any paid API, feel free to try with an open model like the ones we mentioned, but you may have to adjust a few lines of code. Now let's set up our Python environment. We'll need to install a few libraries. The main one is LangChain. Additionally, if we're using OpenAI's API, we'll install the OpenAI Python client library. Optionally, if we plan to use a vector database for memory or other tools, we might install those too. For example, ChromeDB for a simple vector store, or Fais if you prefer that. But for the very first simple agent, we can actually skip the vector database and focus on tools and the loop. So go ahead and install LangChain and the OpenAI library. This can be done with pip, for example. Pip install LangChain OpenAI. If you're doing this in Colab, you'd prepend to run it as a shell command. Once we have those, we'll also need an API key if using OpenAI. Log in to OpenAI's website, create an API key, it's a long string of letters and numbers, and keep it handy. In your code, you'll set it as an environment variable or directly configure the OpenAI library with it. It's important not to expose the key publicly if you share your code. Treat it like a password.